Welcome to my channel, Midsummer Myths, where you find stories like no other, packed with twists, drama, and unbelievable moments you won't forget. And today's story, well, let's just say it's the kind of tale that'll have you gripping your seat and questioning who's really pulling the strings. You ever meet someone who looks you dead in the eye, calls you a coward, and thinks they can get away with it? Now, imagine that someone wears a uniform decorated with more stars than you've ever seen in your life, and the whole room watches you shrink. Or at least, they think you shrink. That's exactly where Sergeant Major Daniel Price found himself. A 24-year Army veteran, multiple deployments, Bronze Star recipient, a man who'd spent more nights in hostile territory than most people spend in their own living rooms. And yet, on that cold February morning, in a high-security briefing room at Fort Bragg, he was branded a coward by none other than General Alexander Monroe, a 4-star with a reputation for crushing careers before breakfast. Daniel sat still, fists clenched under the table, while Monroe's voice echoed in the room. "Price, you're afraid to act. That makes you a liability. In this army, there's no place for fear." The words hit like shrapnel. Every officer and enlisted man in the room shifted uncomfortably, some pretending to look at their papers, others staring at the floor. But Daniel wasn't broken. Not yet, because unknown to everyone in that room, even the hulking military police posted at the doors, Daniel had something no one else did. A recording device, no bigger than a coat button, sewn discreetly into his uniform. He hadn't planted it for Monroe. In fact, it was originally meant for something entirely different, to document serious operational failures in a recent overseas mission. But fate, as it turns out, doesn't take orders. That morning, while Monroe ripped into him, Daniel's mind wasn't on the insults. It was on the quiet red blink inside his left breast pocket, a light only he knew was there. You see, Daniel understood something about power. The people who think they have the most of it often forget that one well-placed truth can turn it to dust. And as Monroe spoke, Daniel decided that this truth would be the one to bring him down. Asterisk, here's the thing about the military rumors travel faster than orders. By the next day, word had spread through the base like wildfire. Price had been humiliated. The whispers painted him as hesitant, weak, someone who'd frozen under pressure during a joint op overseas. And though Daniel knew the truth, the stain on his name was growing darker with each passing hour. Monroe made sure of it. At lunch, Daniel overheard 2 captains at the next table, their voices low but cutting. "Career's over, man." You don't recover from Monroe's wrath, but Daniel didn't plan to recover. He planned to retaliate. Late one night, in his small on-base quarters, he played the recording back. Monroe's voice came through crisp and venomous, but there was more. Something Daniel had almost forgotten. Before calling him a coward, Monroe had let slip details about a classified op, details that contradicted the official report filed. After a disastrous mission in Eastern Europe, that mission had ended in failure. Equipment failures, poor intel, and most damning, a refusal by Monroe himself to authorize reinforcements. Lives were lost. And yet the general's report placed the blame squarely on the ground team. Daniel's pulse quickened as he replayed the segment again and again. Monroe's arrogance had done him in. He'd admitted, on tape, to withholding support and had even mocked the soldiers who didn't survive. It wasn't just slander anymore. It was potential court-martial material. But this wasn't the kind of thing you could just hand over to the first person who'd listen. Monroe's reach was long, his allies influential. Daniel needed to be strategic. One wrong move, and the recording would vanish into a black file somewhere, never to be heard again. So he reached out to an old friend, not another soldier, but a civilian journalist named Emily Voss. She'd been embedded with his unit years ago and had made a name for herself exposing military corruption. If anyone could turn this into an unstoppable story, it was her. Daniel sent her a message through a secure channel. "I have something. It's big, and it's dangerous." Emily didn't waste time. 2 days later, she was in Fayetteville, sitting across from Daniel in a dimly lit diner, the kind where the coffee's burnt but the booths are private. He slid the flash drive across the table, his hand trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to unleash. She listened with headphones, eyes widening as Monroe's voice filled her ears. She paused halfway through, staring at Daniel. This isn't just career ending for him. This is prison time, Daniel knew, and that was the point. Emily's plan was bold. She wouldn't publish immediately, too risky. Instead, she'd leak portions of the audio anonymously to a network of military watchdogs. The goal was to create pressure from multiple angles, making it impossible for Monroe to quietly bury the scandal. Within a week, whispers turned into roars. Military forums buzzed with speculation. Anonymous posts quoted Monroe's exact words. Soldiers began recounting similar experiences of being scapegoated. Monroe responded with fury. Daniel's chain of command called him in, demanding to know if he'd spoken to the press. He denied everything, playing the role of the weary, disgraced soldier just trying to keep his head down. But in private, he and Emily worked tirelessly, assembling a complete, unedited version of the recording along with supporting evidence, mission logs, after-action reports, and testimonies from surviving team members. The tipping point came when a major news outlet picked up the story. The headline was blunt: 4-star general accused of withholding support, mocking fallen soldiers. The report included enough of the audio to confirm its authenticity, but not enough to compromise national security. Monroe's office issued a statement calling the allegations fabricated and malicious, but behind closed doors, panic set in. Investigations were opened, congressional inquiries followed, and Daniel kept silent, knowing the real blow was yet to come. The final act came 3 weeks later. By now, Monroe was a household name for all the wrong reasons. His every public appearance was met with protesters holding signs that read "Justice for the Fallen" and "Truth over rank." Daniel received a call from Emily. It's time. That night, they released the full recording, uncut, unedited, to the public. It was uploaded to multiple platforms simultaneously, impossible to erase. People heard Monroe's voice, dripping with contempt, as he recounted withholding reinforcements, followed by his mocking laughter. They heard him call Daniel a coward, and then, in the same breath, admit that the mission was lost before it began due to his own decisions. The reaction was instantaneous. Veterans groups demanded his resignation. Lawmakers called for a full military tribunal. Social media exploded with messages of support for Daniel, branding him not as a coward, but as a whistleblower and a hero. Monroe was relieved of command pending investigation. His glittering career, once untouchable, now lay in ruins. Daniel watched the coverage from his living room, not smiling, not gloating, just breathing. It wasn't joy he felt, but something deeper: vindication. Weeks later, Daniel was approached. In the commissary, by a young private, the kid stood stiffly, eyes full of admiration. "Sir, I just wanted to say, you're the reason I stayed in. I read everything. I listened to the tape. You're no coward." Daniel nodded, humbled. "Never let anyone tell you who you are, son. They don't get to decide that." The irony wasn't lost on him. Monroe had tried to erase his name from the Army's honor roll. Instead, he'd immortalized it, and somewhere, in a quiet corner of his mind, Daniel knew one truth. Power doesn't come from stars on your shoulder. It comes from standing up when it's hardest. How did you like this story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories from Midsummer Myths.